All right, what's up, everybody? Tribaholics is officially back. We have had a 4-month layoff. There's been a lot going on. My former co-host Marshall Maxwell, one of my good buddies from back in college, had to kind of bail out. That's why you're seeing some new faces around here now with Tribaholics. We'll introduce them here in a second, but really excited to bring this thing back. We're gonna revamp it, get things going, keep shit real nice and smooth and fun for you guys as always. Without further ado, guys, I'm going to go ahead and throw it around to my new co-host that I'm extremely happy to have on here. And we'll start with this guy over here to my left and Christian. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Christian, and then after that, we'll get to Ben.
What's up, guys? I'm Christian. I am new to the show here, obviously. Not drinking tonight, getting over COVID. Unfortunately, still dealing with these symptoms here, but I'm braving that to come on and get our first episode of Tribaholics for the season here. So excited to do it.
What's up, fellas? How we doing? I'm Ben. I'm a student at Auburn, but it's still go Knowles. And yeah, got me a little stuff I'm sipping on tonight. I'm excited to be here. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to have you guys. Christian and I, kind of became close through a mutual friend, and then Ben and I got close through No Game Day Discord. So if you guys don't, know what No Game Day is, head over there, check out their stuff. They provide awesome content for Florida State sports as well. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into our first segment here that we always start off with here at Tribaholics. We're going to go around, let you guys know what we're sipping on. Obviously, Christian isn't sipping on anything tonight. He's still working his way through COVID. But Ben, let the people know what you're sipping on. And if you're sipping on something from home while you're watching us, let us know in the comments. We'll throw you up here. Let the people know what you're drinking on. But Ben, brother, what do you got?
We got a little Sailor Jerry's rum, 92 proof, a little higher than I thought, but it's a good thing. With some Dr. Pepper Zero, keep the calories low, fuck up your liver, and keep your health good.
Yeah, I'm glad I recommended that Sailor Jerry's to you. Some of the best rum, pretty good stuff. Much better than some Captain Morgan, if I might say so myself. But myself, I've got a Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, some brand of New Belgium. It's good beer, 9%er, so I'm going pretty heavy to start off the season. Alcoholics and it, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, so that's what we're sipping on. Y'all let us know what you're sipping on. And we'll get into some Florida State stuff, and we'll start off here. I'll let Christian take over here and give us kind of a rundown of what's going on with this new alliance between the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12, and see what our original thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so this has been kind of underreported, I think, probably because everyone's so excited for the Notre Dame game coming up. But sort of in a response, I guess, to the move of Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, the commissioners for the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 have announced a new alliance. Mostly everything, I don't know about you guys, everything I've seen about it on Twitter is kind of people shitting on it, saying it's kind of pointless, saying it's a flex to kind of try to stand up to the SEC, but it's really not going to do anything. I think, honestly, the main reason they did this is to kind of get in the way of ESPN, who's sort of the puppet master for the SEC there, to slow the playoff expansion. I really don't think it's going to impact FSU, honestly, in terms of our scheduling or our conference realignment like a lot of people would have hoped. But we'll see. I mean, these are things that like play out slowly. So down the road, it could change. But I tend to align with the group online that thinks it's sort of a empty promises and not going to lead to much. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I really got nothing about that. I'm pretty sure it's just a little save face, hey,
Yeah.
he's doing this, so we're gonna try to do that. Eventually, I think it's just gonna go up. You're gonna have a couple more big teams join the SEC, and then you're gonna merge the powers from the Big Ten, ACC, and like the one good team in the Pac-12. You're just gonna have top 4 from each conference play in a playoff or something like that.
Yeah, I think you do end up with just 2 conferences in 15 years, maybe, however long it takes. But I don't think you stick around with an alliance of 3 and then one powerful SEC. I think you end up with a Big Ten and an SEC down the road.
Yeah, you saw last year, like the Big Ten and the Pac-12. Yeah, the Big Ten and Pac-12. They try to control a season with
Yeah.
most in the season, and then the SEC was like, no. So you know who runs football. It's always the SEC, and it's going to stay that way for a while.
It is. And the reason people were shitting on the alliance is mostly because they sort of made a big deal out of it, and then they did their press conference and they said, we haven't signed any contracts, we haven't made any agreements. We are just three gentlemen who want to be aligned together in the running of our conferences. So naturally, people were kind of just assuming it was a joke.
Which I mean, I see it as a big fucking joke too. I mean,
Yeah.
in this day and age, like, who can you really trust? And they don't even have a contract on the table. They're just
Exactly.
really talking about we have a handshake as three gentlemen. We're going to put trust in everything moving forward. How many times have we seen that fucking fail in the past? Like that
Yeah.
can't work. They say they want to change and bring back the integrity of the college football or college athletic landscape as a whole, which I don't feel like that's what's really happening with joining in three conferences into an alliance, and then the SEC is going to stay the SEC and just add the better teams from the Big 12, and then it ultimately fucks over the Big 12.
Yeah, absolutely. And the issue is everything in college football works in contracts, right? Like we schedule games 10 years down the road with, multiple page contracts. To think that there's going to be an alliance or some kind of unity just on a gentleman's agreement is just kind of a silly notion, honestly. And I don't think it's going to impact Florida State much, if at all.
I would be excited, maybe get like USC and Oregon here and there because they said they're going to do like interconference games once a year.
Yeah.
Really
Just today, right after they announced this alliance, USC plans to they released their scheduling dates with LSU. So already you're seeing these teams continuing to want to play the SEC schools anyways. So we'll see, but I don't expect anything to come of it.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see just the landscape of college football as well as all college athletics, because they did mention that it's going to be crossing over not only into that but basketball as well when it comes to women's and men's. So it'll be interesting, especially since we know the Big Ten and the ACC have been the predominant powerhouses of college basketball for as long as we've known it. So that'll bode well for that. But it's just going to be very interesting to see what happens. Big 12 could get fucked out of a whole lot unless they start adding some of these group of 5 teams. You look at UCFs, SMUs, and then ultimately, what are your thoughts on teams that are independent schools like Notre Dame? Do you think that's going to affect them at all, especially when it comes to TV deals or things of that nature?
I don't think it's going to affect Notre Dame because Notre Dame they realize just as easily as we do that it has no legs. That it's really not going to impact the field or the nature of college football at all. I don't think Notre Dame has any reason to be concerned about it. They make enough money as it is. It's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
You got it.
No, I was going to say, you brought up basketball, Skinner. What's a real alliance looks like is something like the Big Ten ACC Challenge in basketball, right, where we have the different matchups with the Big Ten schools every year. That's something that's planned ahead of time, that's contracted out, that's officially done. That's what these sort of things would look like if it was done in any sort of professional way. But what they did to sort of have their gentleman's agreement just doesn't do it for me. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to affect Notre Dame now. 10 years down the road when they're making the 2 big conferences, no one's probably they're not going to play Notre Dame. They're going to be like, you're going to join a conference, you're going to play all of us. If you want a spot, just how the format's going to work, I think. But now they're just like, they're going to stay independent. They make more money that way, and they're in the ACC and literally everything else. So they're making bank.
Yeah, I think there's so many different questions that came. I think more questions came out of that press conference than most people had going in. You're talking about TV deals. You're talking about possible conference realignments. You're talking about what's going to happen with the Olympic sports. What's going to happen with NIL at this point? What's going to happen with the Big 12? What's happening with the independent schools? Is this really just a handshake deal? There's just so many different directions that you can go into. But I think the thing I'm most excited about when it does come to this is I think what they called it is coast to coast scheduling, which I am super pumped about, because could you imagine, we have USC on the schedule one year and we get to fly out to LA and them as well coming out here, especially if we get good again. Like, how fucking awesome that'd be. USC, Florida State's good in college football again, and we get to travel to go play them during a regular season instead of having to possibly match up in a college football playoff, which is super exciting to me. And, talking about playing Oregon again, hopefully getting, some revenge for back in 2014 would be awesome. But I mean, you look at all those cool matchups. Are there any specific ones, in between those three conferences that you're looking forward to specifically when it comes to college football?
Ohio State, USC. Ohio
Yeah.
State, USC, FSU, USC. Pretty much USC and all the big teams. I'd like to see Michigan, Oregon too. Michigan, Oregon would be pretty fun. I'd like to get a rematch of Michigan, FSU as well, but I mean, it'd be fun to kick Scott Frost's ass, but he's not going to be there when this actually takes place.
Yeah, I'd love to see us play Ohio State first and foremost. I think that would be great, especially in a home and home sort of thing. The other one's exciting too. Oregon rematch would be nice. USC would be nice, but Ohio State has to be would be the most exciting one, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm just going to ignore my boy Brandon down there saying Oregon's going to do the same thing to FSU that they did the last time. Not really want to get into all that shit. That was not one of my games that I like to talk about. So we'll keep moving. We'll jump into a little bit of other sports real quick, and we'll talk about the soccer team just kicking off their season. Jalen Howell was just named the ACC Defensive Player of the Week for our women's soccer team. Always an amazing player, great player at that. I mean, she does everything at the midfield position, but starting off the year as the number 1 ranked overall team and starting off 2-0. Haven't paid attention to it, quite this early on in the season, but it looks like we have a good start. Beating Texas A&M 1-0 in the first game of the year. Texas A&M was ranked number 9. Bama is in the second game with a nice win, 4-0. And then the South Alabama game is going on right now. All three of these games in Tallahassee. Does anybody have an update on, the score for the game that's going on currently?
I'm looking it up right now.
I don't have an update. I do know that South Alabama goalie was having a hell of a performance in the first half against us tonight, but I stopped watching after that. I think she had 17 saves. We had 18 shots on goal compared to none for South Alabama.
All right, Ben, you got to answer the big question that everybody has on their mind right now. And why do you have a partial Florida State and a partial Iowa flag? It makes no goddamn sense, in my opinion.
All right, well, I just found out we beat South Alabama 4-0. I looked that up. But to go back to the question, so one of my best friends' stepdad is an Iowa fan. And, we were talking about it. He always joke around talking about Iowa, and we actually got really into Iowa. We kind of became semi-fans, me and my friend. So before I went off to college, he got me the house divided Iowa Florida State flag, and I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. I was like, that's the story. It's nothing special.
I love Florida State. I don't think I've ever seen a combo flag like that. But cheers to you.
Only one
definitely one of a kind.
Similar to it is I saw a Washington State Alabama flag at a golf course I worked out a couple summers ago, and that was it. Everything else is just pretty normal house divided flags.
Nice. Yeah, most of the ones that I grew up with were Florida and Florida State. Half my family was Florida fans, half my family was Florida State. So always fun there. Just never seen something like that before. Can't believe they make that. I can't believe they make that either.
I'm pretty sure there's a website you go to and they just take half a logo and another half a logo.
There you go. You got it. It's all it takes sometimes. Get the main colors too. But yeah, soccer. Just found out they won 4-0 against South Alabama. So good back-to-back games against Alabama and South Alabama here in Tallahassee for the soccer team, keeping that number 1 ranking intact. Love to see what the rest of their season is going to look like, especially after the heartbreak that we had in the championship game this past season, where we should have won the game all game and then absolutely blew it in PKs.
Yeah, it was tough.
But moving on, and probably the most important aspect of this whole show, and we're going to start getting to talk about some Florida State football, boys. We're almost there. We're 10 days away now, and I'm super, super excited. I know Christian's going to be up there for the game. I don't know if Ben's going to be able to make it down or not, but, we're going to go ahead and get into it. And let's just start off with a little bit of the vaccination stuff. We don't really give a fuck what your stance is on it or not. We're just going to tell you what the hell and its importance is to Florida State and our football team moving ahead. So your thoughts, guys, on the rules that the ACC came down with, if you for some reason can't make the roster limit because of COVID reasons, you have to forfeit the game. So give me your original thoughts on that. And then obviously Florida State's vaccination threshold at this current moment is the bottom of the ACC, and we have yet to reach that 85% threshold that they have set for contact tracing and whatever else. So give me your thoughts on that. Tell me if it's bullshit. Tell me what you think about it. Give me all the raw details.
Yeah, they are reporting that we're getting closer. So I'm pretty sure we're the last ACC team to get there, but it does look like they're going to get to the 85%. So you don't love to see them, in that situation, but they got to do so that we don't forfeit games first and foremost. So looks like we're going to get there, and that's a good sign. I mean, I don't think any of us like talking about COVID and vaccines anymore at this point, maybe especially me because I've been dealing with this shit for 2 weeks. But it's still where we're at, and hopefully we get to the 85, and it's not something we have to talk a lot about as the season goes on.
I don't think forfeits matter at all. That was kind of my first thought. Like, you get a Clemson team, they're 10-2 with one loss to UGA. They went out, won the ACC championship. The committee's not going to give a fuck if they forfeited to Louisville one game. They're going to be like, they would have kicked Louisville's ass. Like, they're a deserving team. Like, I just don't like, you have a Georgia team that loses one game to Alabama, but they forfeit to like Tennessee. They're not going to care. They're going to put that team in. They're not going to value that as a loss. They're going to value it as they did not play like they did last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Last year we saw the Big Ten change their rules multiple times just to get Ohio State in. So if you have a similar situation now, I don't know why anyone would think that the Big Ten or the ACC would actually give a school like Ohio State or Clemson a forfeit. It seems like this is probably just what they're saying now to try and get those vax numbers up. But when it really comes down to it, they're not going to sacrifice the chances of their playoff contenders.
Yeah, too much money to be lost.
Yeah,
money drives everything in the sport. So,
yeah, I completely agree with you guys. We talked a little bit about what the actual rules are and what's happening. You don't have to dig much more into it. Hopefully, we're getting closer to that threshold point. There's been a couple of rumors, and we'll dive into that right now, actually. And one of those rumors that came out was that Josh Griffiths being no longer with the team. The speculation is because he has been very adamant about, and Ben's happy about that, but he has been very adamant about being a guy who's not going to go and get the vaccine on his Snapchat story and things of that nature. And, albeit, that's fine. No, like, that's your personal choice. I respect that for you and whatever. But the whole big thing across Twitter, obviously the biggest social platform to go and bitch if you're a fan, is on Twitter. And so everybody automatically took to Twitter. Who's lying? Who's not? Multiple sources. Noel Cass started it first with Ingram Smith and Bud Elliott coming out saying that he's no longer with the team, possibly because of vaccination reasons. You have to cut it down to be able to get that threshold number percentage back up. And then you have War Chant following shortly after, and then 247 coming along saying the same things as well. And then you have Kathy Griffin coming out, Griffiths, excuse me, coming out, Josh Griffiths' mom coming out and saying, this is completely false. This is my son. Like, I talked to him, according to him, he's still on the team. And then not a day later, we get the notification he's in the portal. So don't really know what's going on with that. I know there's some speculation if you guys want to touch on that at all. And then also we had a transfer come in through the portal, and Brandon Moore from UCF at the cornerback position, shown some praise and some highlights during the spring, but he's off the team as well. But I'm not sure what you guys have heard or what you know on those two guys. And
I
what
think first,
as players, is it a big loss to us?
No, it's not. I want to get to the bottom of where this animosity is coming from for Griffiths from Ben.
Well, I'll keep it short. He's a fucking loser. Nobody that calls their name Big Country, who's a 3-star, whose best offer is Louisville, should be on a Florida State football roster. I don't care how bad we are. And then he got that stupid mullet, and he just looked like a fucking idiot. And he's not good at the sport. He has no talent. So, anyways, I get the notification that he's gone, and I couldn't have had a better day. I was so happy. He's not on this team. He's gone. I'm happy. I don't have to ever watch him play football again. I don't think he should be on a D2 roster. He's not good.
Strong words.
If you're watching this, Josh Griffiths, fuck you.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, that's the first time ever on a Tribal episode we've had somebody call out a player and say "fuck you." If that's how you're gonna roll, Ben, that's how you're gonna roll. I'm not gonna stop you there, but I don't know what's going on. Apparently, there's some speculation that there's something that happened on the practice field that has happened in the past, and it's been it's the last time that's gonna fucking happen because obviously you're not on the team anymore. Speculation around that when it comes to Josh Griffiths. And the little less known is what happened with Brandon Moore. He kind of showed out a little bit in the spring. Is going to provide quality depth to that cornerback position, maybe even start, if you will. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But the Josh Griffiths stuff, I had a lot of high hopes with him coming in, to be honest with you. And I don't know really what happened. It'll be interesting to find out. But wish Josh the best moving forward. Don't know where he's quite going to end up, but. It says no, we
Except
don't.
for Ben. Yeah, I mean, I think it might have been a stretch to have high hopes for him when he came in. I tend to agree with Ben more on that. I don't have any personal issues with him like Ben does, but as a player, I think it would have been a stretch to assume that he would have ever seen the field if he stuck around. The rumor with Moore was a little more vague. It was basically just family issues that led to him having to be back in Orlando is sort of what people were going with. There was some other stuff going on that people were tweeting and posting about on message boards, but there wasn't really any solid answers there. With Griffiths, it was more everyone sort of knew it surrounded around the vaccine and the fact that he just wasn't seeing the field here.
I just don't get it, man. You won't take a shot to play football at a school that you're not good enough for. Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, for him, it was, will you take the shot to be a scout team guy, basically.
That's fair enough.
Not going to get those quality reps after you get some good transfers in like we did with Jermaine Johnson and Kier. So you're really not going to be getting those reps like you had last year. So that's probably got a bit to do with it. Might have, had a little frustration boil over, whether that's about a shot or about some shit that's going on the field or in the locker room, and you're just not, meshing with what's going on there. But with that being said, they're long gone now. We don't have to worry about them on our team. So we'll stop fucking talking about people who aren't on our team anymore. And we'll move into guys who are possibly who have been actually a very integral part in what Florida State is. And we'll start that and send our condolences to the Bowden family. I grew up a Florida fan. I respected Bobby Bowden. I eventually moved over to being a Florida State fan after my freshman year here, and obviously sending and spending all my money at Florida State and winning a national championship my freshman year had a lot to do with it, from me converting from Florida fan to Florida State fan. But after that, and I got to know the history and got to know what Bobby Bowden was absolutely able to do for not only the football team, but the university as a whole, I probably wouldn't have even had it in my mind to go to Florida State, if it wasn't for Bobby Bowden and him building the football program and the university into what it is today. So thank you to what Bobby was able to do for our university. Thank you for what he was able to do for all of these kids' lives and people who he doesn't even know he impacted. He did impact. So thank you, and prayers out to the Bowden family. And I'll toss it around to you guys real quick to send your condolences and say any good words.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was like, it's obviously a very sad situation, but I think it was more of an opportunity to celebrate his life. Like, he was 92, he had a good life. It's unfortunate he didn't do it a little more peacefully, but it sounds like he didn't suffer for long, so that's really the good thing. But yeah, I would have taken it more as an opportunity, celebrate what he did and what he built up, because that's probably what he would have wanted. Just look back and celebrate what he did and what he built in his life.
Yeah, he's an impressive guy. The number one thing was that anyone who actually knew him, which is not us, but the people who did, they always talked about how he cared about them before they talked about how he was as a coach. So that obviously stands out. I did get to see him and Coach Norvell speak together on stage about 2 years ago, right after Norvell got hired, which was a cool experience. They kind of talked about their past and how they got to where they were in their coaching career. Obviously, Bowden, a retired legend, and Norvell had just got him a job. And Bowden kind of shared some tips with Norvell on stage. So it was a cool thing to watch. It was exciting. And then he gave Norvell his endorsement that day, which was obviously cool to see.
Yeah, I really liked. Yeah, you made a good point. Like everyone, when they talk about Bobby, they don't talk about what he did on the field. They talk about what he did off the field. His character. And I really liked. I like that Nick Saban quote that Alabama put out. I thought that was really cool because there are people. My dad was actually there. He saw Nick Saban give that speech. And he said it was pretty powerful. It was just something he was like, wow, like you're looking at the greatest college football coach of all time talk so good about Bobby, who's probably the second best coach of all time in my opinion. I don't think Bear was as good as people hype him up to be. A lot of Mickey Mouse national championships.
Yeah, I agree.
It's pretty impressive the amount of respect that he garners from college football coaches across the nation. Guys who he's had an impact on that just had one meeting with him. I mean, you see his services, and Jimbo's there. Obviously, he's going to be there. And they didn't even have the best relationship between the two of them, but the respect that Jimbo had for Bobby Bowden is astronomical. And then Dabo Swinney, seeing him be there, seeing some of the words that Dabo Swinney was able to give about Bobby Bowden, especially coming from working for his son prior when he was a wide receivers coach in Clemson. So it's amazing stuff that you're seeing from these coaches being able to say what they have to say about Bobby Bowden, and then it still resonates amongst these players today. These players realize that Bobby was this above life figure to a lot of people, and a lot of them, that's what they were built on, and some of their values come from, their family and being able to have an interaction with Bobby Bowden, especially if they were involved with the football program at some point. So really awesome stuff to see. But we'll move on from, the not so great stuff with Bobby passing away, and we'll move into somebody who's coming in here into the future. And I'll let you take this one, Christian, because it seems like you suck his dick pretty hard.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far, but I am extremely excited. You're referring to Travis Hunter Jr., obviously the #1 high school player in the country. He's been committed to FSU for already almost 2 years now. Sort of a guy that, as everyone knows, you could say we lucked into, really, because we have been kind of trash, and you have the best player in the country, having grown up a lifelong Knowles fan. He's the #1 wide receiver NDB in the country, and he really blew up this summer. It was kind of nonstop highlights from the 7-on-7 trails, ridiculous catches all the time, one-handed stuff, beating double coverages, getting interceptions against the top quarterbacks, all this sort of things. So it was exciting to see him kind of blow up this summer. A lot of FSU fans who follow recruiting already knew about him. He started to get a lot of national hype from ESPN and 247 and all that. So it's good to see. I don't know how much you guys followed that whole thing blow up this summer, but obviously I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yeah, so he's the best prospect in high school since who? Like I'm pulling up a list of 247 all time, and
I know that he's the highest rated defensive back that 247 has ever rated.
And he's the second highest recruit Florida State has ever had behind Ernie Sims. So if that tells you guys anything.
Like the only other more hyped prospect I can think of is Trevor Lawrence, who's going to be a bust for the Jaguars, by the way. Mark my words on that. But aside from Trevor Lawrence, I've never in my 6 years of recruiting, very long time, I have never heard a prospect that has just been more hyped up with so much talent.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard guys who've been following recruiting for 15 plus years who say the same thing. So he's really like generational in the way that people talk about him.
Yeah, definitely. And then he just had his first high school football game of the season this past week, and the dude put up numbers. I'm just gonna read them off to you guys real quick and everybody watching. Obviously, he plays for Collins Hill up there in Swanee, Georgia. Pegged as #1 overall high school recruit by 247 Sports. After the #1 guy ultimately reclassified his spot in the class. He as a wide receiver, he put up 13 catches for 232 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also on the offensive side of the ball, he threw a touchdown. And then on the defensive side of the ball, had an interception. So absolutely incredible work. 13 catches, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a passing touchdown on an O, and then a pick on the defensive side of the ball. Kid is an absolute baller. Just loves to play the game of football, and if it reminds me of anybody, his commitment to Florida State reminds me a lot of how Derwin James was in high school. Derwin committed when he was a freshman in high school and never let up and was relentless in his, commitment to Florida State. And that reminds me a lot of Travis Hunter. Maybe not to the extent that Derwin was, but a lot of similarities there. But I pose this question to you guys: do we play him at wide receiver?
You play him
Yes.
both. He's too good. You play him
Yeah,
both.
you
ways.
have to. You have
I
to.
mean,
And
obviously,
our, and
he won't get the reps like as a wide receiver one, but he's going to be seeing a lot of offensive snaps.
well, you have to consider the fact as well that if we look at our DBs and our wide receivers right now, one of those needs a lot more help than the other, and that's wide receiver. So you're definitely going to see him there. I'd say, I mean, I'd hope to see him at least half the time, but we'll see how it goes.
Do we know what we're recruiting him as? An athlete, wide receiver, DB, or just?
They're recruiting him as both.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
So
it'd be
probably,
awesome if he play two ways.
yeah.
He'd be a legit Heisman candidate if he played two ways.
I mean, when was the last time? I mean, especially in this day and age, you don't see guys play two ways when they get into their college career or even in the pros. It just doesn't happen. You choose one and you stick with one, and if you get switched, you get switched. That's not your choice.
We saw
that's to happen. That's to happen. But I mean, if they're if there's somebody to do it, Travis Hunter really seems like he fits the bill to do so. So really excited for him to get on campus, and for something else that has kind of been going on over the summer and kind of trickled in here into the fall as we come upon the next season has been basketball stuff. And Ben, I'll let you take over that because you've been paying pretty close attention to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just, we're I guess what have we had? We've had 6 total draft picks the past 2 years. We had 3 lotto guys. You go back a few more years, we had Jonathan Isaac be a lotto guy. We had Bacon get drafted. We had Malik, what was his name?
Beasley.
Malik Beasley, yeah.
Fresh out of the pen.
He just got out. But we're having all the success. We're one of 3 teams to make 3 straight Sweet 16s. It should be 4 and a national championship, but COVID fucked that up. And we can't lock down any recruits. I don't get it. We Efton Reed. I mean, we joined that one late, so I get it. Trey Mitchell was supposed to be ours. We were feeling good. He went to Texas. Dylan Mitchell. We were feeling good. We're looking more cloudy now. I think a lot of people are leading Ohio State. You've got Derek Whitehead. Derek Whitehead. We were recruiting him for 2 years. Duke was his dream school, obviously, but Duke comes in 2 months and he commits there. Can't be too mad at that. We just had a guy go G League. It was us, and then G League offered him like $500K, which is hard to compete with, which is messing up a lot of schools. Just like, at what point does it become concerning to our recruiting in basketball? Like, why are we having so much success without being able to land top targets like we have in the past couple of years?
What do you think the reason for that is?
It's kind of strictly money.
We're I'm not going to say we don't cheat, but we're not going to be out here like dropping $250K or something like that. Like
we're not Duke, but
yeah, we're not Duke.
But then again, we weren't Duke when we landed Scotty and Pat and those guys. So
we landed Scotty because we were the only school that would let him play point guard, is what I'm pretty confident in. But our facilities are not good at all.
Really,
our facilities are really bad. They need some major upgrades, and I'm starting to think we're seeing all the success we're having with players, and I just don't think guys want to come in and play 20, 21 minutes and shoot the ball 7, 8 times a game. Like, they want to be the star because they're the talent. Because they're going to get drafted regardless. They think they can bump their stock. But I think if you're like a more defensive player like Scotty or Pat Williams, like if you come to Florida State, Coach Ham will develop you into a top 5 or 10 pick if you have a talent.
Yeah, definitely. And coming into this season, specifically, obviously, you have Mills coming over transfer from Houston, and then the 2 guards / forwards that are coming in, one 5-star, one high 4-star, should be a 5-star, but got bumped down. We had a lot of expectations heading into next season when it comes to recruiting, and it just hasn't progress that way. So, I mean, it kind of leaves question marks to us. But as a fan base, I'm not going to lie, once we have that success on the recruiting trail, we get all, antsy like shit. This needs to happen all the time. And it's just not that way. We got to remember, Ham has done more with less for a long period of time up until this point, to where now we're starting to get these guys. And so that's something I always had to tell myself in the back of my head is like, hey, listen, Ham is a great basketball coach and a great developmental coach, especially when he has guys like CY on the bench with him, and Stan Jones and guys like that on the bench with him. They're great developmental coaches. Stan Jones should be a head coach. CY is probably working himself up there. You've seen what's his name's been able to do at Cleveland State as a head coach and lead them from one of the worst teams in their conference into the NCAA fucking tournament. So it just tells you the pedigree that Coach Ham has with lesser players, and his coaches have a lesser players. So I'm not necessarily stressing it. Am I a little bit nervous of the pedigree? Yes, just because we have had those players come in here recently. But am I overall worried? No. I still think we're going to be in a great spot, especially if we make it a good ways this year. I won't be worried. Guys can flip at any moment. So I'm really excited to see what goes on to college basketball.
Yeah, but there's one thing I've learned is I said it, 2017 I think, or 2018 when we beat Xavier. I was like, we make the Sweet 16 this year. We'll never doubt Coach Ham again. So he always does more with less, like you said. You just gotta trust him. And I really think the big thing is, I think we're not frustrated with just the recruiting. We're just frustrated with we're just having some really bad luck, because this was supposed to be like our year to contend for a title, and then we lost Turk, we lost Bossa, we lost MJ. We're losing a lot of guys that we didn't expect to lose. And then you're like, all right, well, we're gonna return. We're pretty young. We land these guys and go to the 2023 season, and we're not landing these guys, and it's just kind of like, well, I feel like we keep saying, well, next year's a year, but like, at what point is actually gonna be our year and stop being, well, let's just push it back a year. So
there's probably a good argument to be made that our year passed and it got taken away from us, I think is what most people would agree with. That's tough. And as far as the recruiting goes, you almost have to think at some point that success, that run of landing those top guys, like there had to be a dip. It couldn't stay on that trend forever. So to have this cycle dipping a little bit and causing frustration really only shows how far we've come in basketball, because it's still better than we would have expected in 2016 or back then.
Just signed a top 5 class. I think a lot of it is just overreaction and way too high expectations off of 1 year. But
exactly,
I think the future's still very bright. Coach Ham's still going. We got a couple more years out of him, and I think we're gonna get Gates from Cleveland State, and if we get Gates and keep CY, I'm really excited for the next 20-30 years of FSU basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree with both you guys. I think we're on a trajectory forward. No matter what happens in the recruiting trail, I believe in our coaching staff. I believe in our development. I think Florida State basketball is on the map. I mean, we're about to build that huge marketplace thing next to the Civic Center here in 5 years or so. That's going to be really dope. Something similar to what's outside the Staples Center. If you guys have ever seen that or been out there to LA to witness, the shops and the big marketplace area where people can gather before games, that's going to be being built where that empty lot is next to the Civic Center here in the next probably 5 to 10 years. Going to be exciting stuff as long as we, get out of this financial burden that we're in because of COVID and other situations. Coburn's getting that money right. So I believe in that. I think that's going to happen, and that's going to only boost us moving forward too, as well as the facilities. But back to football here, guys. A little, nugget drop here from the No Game Day staff talking about a new entrance for the Florida State football team. What are your guys' thoughts on what Mike Norvell is bringing into the entrance?
I think he's modernizing it. He's catching it up. It's gonna look pretty fucking cool. The recruits are gonna love it. And there are a lot of guys that are complaining about, oh, I don't like the smoke and the lids and stuff. We're gonna look like Miami. I'm like, who gives a shit? Miami doesn't own smoke. It looks cool. It's gonna attract recruits' attention. Like, it's only gonna bring positives for us. They can make fun of us all they want, but they don't really have the right to. They haven't done anything in the past 2 decades.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think if it's anything like what they do at Alabama before their pregame, that would be neat. Obviously, you don't want anything to interrupt the pregame war chant and Osceola and Renegade, but there's definitely a way that you can have the light show and the LEDs and all that, and then merge into the marching chiefs and the traditional stuff we do. So I
Right.
think it'll be exciting.
I think is what the way it was explained is that it's not going to be quite what it is in Alabama or Georgia. You know how it's the whole stadium and all the lights going and this, that, LEDs flashing and strobes and all shit. It's going to be just the tunnel. It's going to be just the tunnel walk, which is going to be pretty fucking sick if you're a player, right? You're walking through this shit. You're getting hyped the fuck up. You're pretty much at the club. If you're asking me, you're at the fucking club getting ready to go out and fucking fight, dude. It's gonna be exciting for them. And then all we're gonna see, you know, from a fan standpoint, is just this tunnel, just like a fucking rave, just fucking going off with smoke and lights and all kinds of shit, dude. It's gonna be awesome. And then all we're gonna see is that, but all we're gonna hear is the marching chiefs playing the fucking war chant and everybody just and throughout the fucking stadium, and then watching Chief Osceola while he's going and playing that spear in the fucking middle of the turf, and then the boys are gonna run out from their fucking party, and it's time to fucking party, boys. It's gonna be exciting, dude. I think it's a great thing that it's just solidified to that one area, and it's not gonna be the whole stadium, and it's not gonna take away from the atmosphere that is at Doak Campbell Stadium.
I have an idea. I was thinking, like, what if like all the lights went like dark, you know, while Chief Osceola was going out, and you had the LEDs just going around like the stadium, just the LEDs, all Osceola was going around, and when he plants a spear, you have like flames come up by the entrance, and all the lights come on, and all the players run out. That shit would be cool. Like that would get me hyped. I'd be ready to go out there and, you know, take a hit.
If anybody up in the FSU offices are listening to this right now, go ahead and hire Ben as your creative director for intros.
Dude, I will have all of our players ready, just like take a hit from Derrick Henry, like full on, you know, like nobody's stopping us. Like Derrick Henry will hit you and just fall down. We will be ready.
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's pretty dope aspect bringing in the new age. I mean, we've already seen it happen with Mike Norvell purchasing the slingshot with his own money, not even using, you know, athletic funds to purchase it, using his own money to get the slingshot, you know, moving towards, you know, the younger generation. That's what they like. They like the cool shit like that. And these LEDs, these strobe lights, the smoke, kids love it. I mean, it is part of their culture. It's part of what they love to do. So why not, you know, move in that direction in some sort of way or fashion? And that's exactly what he's doing. I think it's a great idea. I'm excited to see what it looks like. Hopefully it's not a failure, because if it's a failure, that would be a catastrophe in my opinion. But I can only just imagine just like a spear on the top of the tunnel, just like a neon spear on the top of the tunnel that's just strobing the whole time while these guys are in the tunnel, and they're just up there just partying in smoke with the strobe light spear going off. I could just imagine, dude. That would fire me the fuck up if I was in that tunnel, dude. It would be awesome.
It's only the boomers that don't like it. It's only the boomers.
And you know what? Nobody's not going to like it, even the boomers, when you're in that stadium on Labor Day and it's hot and it's muggy and we've just finished tailgating and we're ready to go for that Notre Dame game. I don't think anyone's going to be complaining about it.
Yeah, not at all. And, you know, there's always going to be shit people don't like. I've come to that conclusion. You know, there's going to be instances and shit that we don't like, you know, as fans. Like, fuck that. Like, that's dumb as fuck. Why are we doing it? Like, that's going to happen, you know, and there's always going to be shit in the world that people don't like. Get the fuck over it and move on with your life. And with that, we'll move on. And we'll talk about who's going to be our starting quarterback. Notre Dame game, 10 days away. Who is going to be our starter? Tell me why. Give me a reason. And tell me what you see coming from the quarterback position this year.
It's Jordan Travis. I think it has to be at this point. Mostly because apparently Mackenzie Milton has been having issues with a foot injury, causing him to miss practice. But, I mean, for my money, I would have wanted Travis regardless. I think he brings too much to the table for us with how he can run the ball. Like, I don't think any of our receivers or running backs run the ball as well as he does. And the fact that his passing has gotten better because Milton pushed him all season or all off season is a big enough point of emphasis. I think that he's brought his level up enough, and Milton is going to be not the same guy that he was at UCF. I think it has to be Jordan Travis.
Yeah, I'm a Christian. It's Travie Patty all the way, baby.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for it. I think, you you saw him versus Notre Dame last year. He threw some really good passes in the first half. He does that consistently. It's over. It's like James with basic eye surgery. Like once you get on a roll, like things are gonna start to get scary. And I think even if he's not as good of a passer as Milton, which at this point I would say he's probably just as good of a passer.
Yeah,
But if he's
I agree.
not, and his legs just do so much more, I would take half the passing ability Mackenzie Milton has just to have Jordan Travis's running ability, especially with where he is at O-line, just being able to make plays out of nothing. We saw him doing it all last year, and now should have a better O-line, a little bit more time, development on his passes, and he's going to have a much better wide receiver core. I think he's going to have a really good year, and that's why I drafted him in college football fantasy.
I mean, it makes such a difference for us to have a guy there who can move the ball out of the backfield through the air and on the ground. It's the only thing that won us any games last year. Obviously, we didn't win many, but you could legitimately think we would have had 0 wins with a guy like Tate standing back there like a statue all year.
He should have scholarship.
Exactly. And I mean, the way he runs the ball, the way I always think about the play where he dribbled it to himself versus Louisville, like the athleticism he brings is not even close to anything KZ brings to the table. Like, he's got the leadership factor, but as far as who gives us the best chance to win, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, I don't remember who said that he's got just as good, passing the ball as Milton. I don't know if that was you, Christian, or Ben. I think it was Christian said that.
I said that.
Yeah,
I
don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think McKenzie still got a good spin on the ball. Great accuracy, great arm talent. Overall, much better than Jordan Travis. Yes, Jordan has become more confident in his arm, but he's still very hesitant to go down the field. We have not seen him be willing to go down the field and have a lot of confidence in that, and that's a problem when it comes to being able to stretch and make good plays. He is good at stretching a play and making big plays, but the accuracy has been off. I mean, even in games where we won, and you can even look back at the UNC game last year where we won the game, an underthrown ball to Keyshawn Helton where he had to go up and grab it in between 3 defenders, and it was a big play, and he still grabbed it, but way underthrown. The ball to I forget who it was. It was Pokey. Was behind him, and if the ball might have been in front of him, Pokey might have not stepped out of bounds on that touchdown, and then it just ended up in a field goal. So there's multiple things that you can point to in Travis and his pass where he just doesn't show that confidence in being able to throw the deep ball or when he's on the run. Now, I might be wrong when it comes to this next season, and I hope I am, because ultimately I would rather have Travis as my starting quarterback because he does provide that extra stuff that Mackenzie Milton can't because he's limited because of his leg. And that's nothing against Mackenzie Milton because Mackenzie Milton can sling it, and that's all because of the injury that happened, and he can't do anything about it. If we have better protection like Jameis did back in 2013, give me Mackenzie Milton all fucking season. Like that's fine. But that's not going to happen with this offensive line. We're still a rebuilding process in that aspect of things. So I ultimately do think Mackenzie Milton will start this season as our starting quarterback. I think there's going to be a lot of Travis sprinkled in, but I think at some point in the season we're going to realize, and Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham are going to realize, that the players respond a lot better to Jordan Travis being able to make plays with his legs at the quarterback position than Mackenzie Milton. So I think eventually later down the road we get Travis will become that quarterback. I'm not saying it'll be based off of wins or losses. It'll just be based on performance because I still think there will be a heavy dose of Jordan Travis even early on in the season, even if Mackenzie Milton does start, which I believe he will start. And if you go back to the spring game, Mackenzie Milton still's got a hell of a fucking ball. Yeah. He's got a hell of a ball. His pass to McLean over the middle in between 2 defenders and a diving catch, beautifully placed ball. Beautifully placed ball immediately after that to Brian Robinson for a touchdown. There was a pass in practices most recently to Parchment, which to me it looked like a Mackenzie Milton thrown ball. We weren't shown who the quarterback was, but the placement of that ball was tremendous. I don't know if Jordan's able to place the ball as well as Mackenzie Milton, so I just assumed that that's who it was going, who had thrown the ball. But I think Mackenzie Milton will get that chance to start, and I think there will be a lot of Jordan Travis sprinkled in. Now,
I think what you see from Jordan is honestly going to surprise you, because like you're totally spot on about those spring game passes, and even have the one to Burrell across the middle, which was on the money too. But the thing is, he had those peaks, but his lows, even in the spring game and throughout the spring, were tough. Like even if his nicest passes, like the one to Parchment, the one to McLean, and Burrell were so nice, his consistency wasn't there. And believe it or not, that's what has been said, that Jordan Travis is like gained to his passing game. So you almost have to favor that, in my opinion, to the Milton can hit that one beautiful dime 1 out of every 10 throws. Would you rather have that, or the guy that's consistent, maybe doesn't hit the bomb, but gets the ball to the right spot, runs when he has to, and is effective at getting first downs, keeping us ahead of the chains? That's why I kind of favor Travis. I'm not saying it's a runaway or it's a guarantee, but I do think he gives you a better chance to win, even though McKenzie can admittedly still sling it when he needs to.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is like we've seen all these like practice highlights, which again I don't really hold into high regard. I've always been that way, they don't really matter. But we haven't seen any throws from Jordan Travis, so we don't really know how much his progressions have come. So we're gonna obviously we trust the coaching staff, and we're just gonna hope that he has developed a lot better. I mean, obviously he has,
Yeah.
he should have, but I just don't think in the going back like the leadership thing. I think KZ's a great leader, but I kind of get the vibe that Jordan Travis has the team. It's kind of like a James Blackman situation. Like he got a lot of shit, but
well,
James Blackman.
going off that, Ben, I agree with you. I think Travis has the locker room. I know KZ came in and won the locker room as well, which is great. I love having a quarterback coming in that's a transfer, being able to win a locker room. But we saw it last year specifically when Jordan Travis took over.
Yeah.
The whole mentality of the football team changed. It wasn't we're just gonna lay down anymore. We're gonna actually give a shit because Jordan is a tough motherfucker and he's gonna do everything he can. I mean, even in that, I go back to the UNC game over and over again. But you remember when Jordan injured his arm and he kept staying in the game because he wanted to win. He wanted to lead these guys. So I think you're completely right with that, Ben.
Yeah, and you could see him do the same thing in the Jacksonville State game when he came in. It was his first or second drive, and he ran for it on like a 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and carried it might have been Cushney, the Jacksonville State defenders 3 yards from the backfield to get that first down.
And that was first down, right?
Yeah, it was on a 4th and 1. And you compile that with what you talked about from the North Carolina game, with the fact that he got injured and came back, I think 2 different times throughout the season. So as much as the guys like Milton, and I don't think anyone has an issue with him, you have to agree that Jordan Travis is the real like heartbeat of the team, and he earned it in the right way because he's one of the quiet type of guys, right? He's not a real vocal guy. He's not the guy who's leading, the chants before the game or anything like that. He's not speaking in the locker room. He's putting his head down. He's getting those types of first downs. He's coming back when he's injured, and that's the stuff that they respond to more than anything.
Yeah, as long as he's able to keep his confidence up, my bold take is he's going to start every game. That was the downfall of James Blackman. I thought he had the talent. We saw it in the first half of Boise, but he just lost his confidence too quick, and everything went downhill. And then he just couldn't get it back. He had a really tough situation going through Jimbo, then Willie, then another coaching staff. It just wasn't good for him. But I think going forward to Jordan Travis, last year he showed that he can keep his confidence and his composure a lot better, which is not a slight to James Blackman. I wouldn't have been able to keep my confidence or composure either. I think it's more of a props to Jordan Travis getting beat up over and over and over. But if he keeps up that confidence and keeps the team around him, I think he's going to start all 12 and hopefully 13 games for us.
Yeah, and that's good. Good input, guys. I really appreciate that. And then with that being said, we'll move on to season predictions. Just give me your guys's win loss, and then why. What do you see us faulting in? Do you see us winning a game against a team that we shouldn't win? Do you see us losing a game that we shouldn't lose? And where you ultimately see us at the end of the year in terms of our record?
I think the way it plays out, most likely in the scenario where you win the games you're expected to win and you lose the ones that you're not expected to win, I think you go 5-7. I think the caveat there, though, the reason to be excited is that I think it's a lot more likely that we beat a team who we're underdogs to, like a Notre Dame, Miami, Florida, whoever it ends up being, than it is that we lose one of the games that we're supposed to win. You know, there's no way we're losing one of these UMass, Jacksonville State type of games. I think there is, you know, especially with the Notre Dame game, a good chance to get that upset win. So I'm going to go with 5-7. I think, though, that 6 wins is going to be a lot more likely than 4 wins. You know, if we're looking at where else we could go other than that 5-7. I'll throw out a hot take. Ben just gave one. I think really that the O-line is going to be the best group on offense.
I love Atkins.
Yeah, Atkins is an absolute beast. And really, it comes a lot from the fact that our skill positions aren't incredibly exciting. Quarterback's exciting because Travis is so fun to watch when he runs with the ball. But really, our running backs and our wide receivers are not the most exciting. You could have some good stuff from Parchment, I'm sure. Helton, hopefully, is going to be reliable. You know, he's going to be a guy you can count on, but he's not really the most talented dude. He's just more of a steady player. I think the O-line is going to be the most improved and the best position on offense. I like Robert Scott at left tackle. I think he's going to be there for 2 or 3 years, and he's kind of going to be a staple and an anchor of our O-line. I think Maurice is good snapping it. You're going to have Love Taylor back. You're going to have Dylan Gibbons, I assume, starting as a transfer. I think that's going to be a steady group and a team that like really raises their floor and surprises people. And on defense, I mean, you have beasts over there. Really, you just want to worry about the coaching at this point. I think everyone knows that, and everyone's kind of like ready to jump on guys like Fuller and Marv. If the defense doesn't work out, I don't think anyone's going to be blaming the players most likely. So we'll have to see, but I think 5-7 is our most likely record.
I'm pretty conflicted. Originally I've gone 6-6 with the upset against UNC because Matt Brown can't beat Florida State. But if you go on games that we're guaranteed to win, I'm not saying it's going to happen. There's a chance we could go 2-10. Like the only 2 guaranteed wins I see are UMass and Jacksonville State. I think Syracuse is almost guaranteed, so like 3 wins is pretty much a lock, but 2 wins is guaranteed. But I think you're looking like you said, games you're supposed to win versus games you're not supposed to win. You're looking at 5-7. And I noticed that you said it. I think we're gonna win a game that we're not supposed to win, like Notre Dame or UNC. I'm feeling pretty good. We're gonna eke out one of those wins. But I'm also really worried because I could you saw last year we beat North Carolina and then immediately got our ass kicked in Louisville, which was a lot more on the culture. You know, we weren't ready to go. You know, we were all stuck in the hype with the UNC win. But if we go on that, if we're able to just capitalize on our wins and keep looking forward and not looking back on the success and look forward to the possibilities, I'm gonna go 6-6 with either beating one of Notre Dame and UNC. I don't think it's out of the possibility to beat Miami. They're a more talented team, but I think we're a lot better coach team aside from Fuller. But that's how I see it. Is you can lose to Louisville, you can lose to Wake, you can lose to BC, you can lose to Miami. But you can also beat all 4 of those. I ultimately think we lose. I have a 6-6 losing to BC and Miami of those 2 because I have bad memories of us playing at Boston College. So I think if we can either sneak one, if I did my math right, if we sneak one of Notre Dame and UNC, we can lose to Boston College and still go 6-6. I have this schedule pulled up. I think that's right. It would be I have us beating one of Notre Dame, UNC, Jacksonville State, Wake, Louisville, Syracuse, UMass,
Yeah.
and then so we'd have to beat Boston College. So if we upset Notre Dame, I'm jumbling my words, but if we upset Notre Dame or UNC, as long as we beat Boston College and Wake Forest and Louisville, those are your 4 games that you gotta win, and then you have your 2 guaranteed. But if we get to I'm feeling really good about the future because that recruiting class should stay intact.
Boston College is a tough ask. And those last 4 games you have is NC State, Miami, at Boston College, at Florida is so tough as just a 4-game stretch. Not to mention right before that is Clemson, which, I mean, at this point, you really don't even need to talk about what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of whatever. But if you look at those 4 games, they'll all be considered winnable, in the scope of, crazy things can happen. We could beat any of those teams, but they're by far the 4 toughest games all together at the same time. So it's going to be a brutal finish. I think NC State is just as good as Boston College too. I wouldn't write them off. But I mean, the way I looked at it is I broke the schedule into 4 parts. So I looked at Notre Dame, Jacksonville State, Wake, and Louisville. Right there, I'm looking at either 3-1 or 4-0. So I don't think any of those teams that we play after Notre Dame are good at all. I think Louisville lost everything. Jacksonville State is obviously Jacksonville State, and Wake isn't going to be able to play with us. Then you move into that second segment where you have Cuse, UNC, UMass, and Clemson. That's not as brutal as the last 4 games, but it's kind of tough. I mean, Syracuse is not going to be the pushover that Louisville and Wake are. North Carolina obviously is going to be a tough game. We're probably going to be a 10-point underdog. UMass, you beat Walt Bell, and Clemson, you lose.
Walt Bell, baby.
For Clemson week, we should just prep for NC State. That's my mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Just celebrate your win over Walt Bell the week
before. My big
before.
concern is that we're going to lose confidence after we lose. If we lose to Clemson, NC State, and then one more, if we just lose 3 straight.
It could skid.
I'm a little bit more optimistic than you guys, I think. I've got us at 7-5, and then 6-6 is my low. I just think there's a lot of unknowns even though we do have, one of the top 10 toughest schedules in the nation, which has been proven on every outlet that has anything to say about scheduling. We have one of the top 10 hardest schedules coming this year. I mean, we play Notre Dame, who's ranked 9. We play UNC, who's ranked high up there as well. Clemson, obviously, Miami, and Florida. But the 2 bookends of our schedule, Notre Dame and Florida, both unproven at quarterback.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes to me. I have no trust in Emory Jones. I will tell you that flat out
Jordan
here.
Agreed.
I have absolutely no trust in Emory Jones. And if Emory Jones falls flat throughout this season, Florida could be bad. They could be really bad. They lost their whole offense, and their defense could be okay.
Their defense is just not good.
Their defense could be okay. Their defense could be okay, but they didn't show us anything last year to prove that wrong. They weren't a great defense last year. They had They had some great players, but they didn't do anything special on the defensive side of the ball. And then you had Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney and whatever the other wide receiver's name was to bail you out of everything. Right. You don't have those guys anymore. They're all off to the NFL. And now you got Emory Jones as your starting quarterback? Okay. Who is that supposed to scare?
No. Yeah, I'm taking Jordan Travis over Emory Jones, 7 days a week.
Every day. And then to start the season, Notre Dame's replacing pretty much your whole offensive line.
Yeah.
But the thing is with Notre Dame, is they replenish those motherfuckers like it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like their job, offensive line. That's what they do. Got it. Okay, but there's still new guys in a very intense atmosphere, something they've never played in before, and expected to perform at that level with a new quarterback in Jack Cohn, which is okay. He's not a light it up type guy.
Okay, so I'm not totally solid on that either. With a potentially sold out Doak Campbell Stadium, it's getting close. It's getting close to being sold out after looking at the tickets today. We're almost there. So Notre Dame coming into Florida State to play, that's not easy. Not with a new offensive line, not with a new quarterback, with no other than a spring and a summer and a fall to get used to each other. We have a whole offensive line that's been here other than Giddens, who is, coming over from Notre Dame. But how easy is that to slot in one dude compared to a whole new offensive line? Very. And we've got a quarterback coming back that we know how to run behind. I am very, very optimistic when it comes to those bookend games. Call me fucking stupid, call me fucking crazy, call me whatever you want. I have very good confidence in us in those two games. I'm not saying we win both of them, but I say we win one of them. I think we win one either against Notre Dame or Florida. And if we win two, fuck it.
So
we're on our way to 8 fucking wins that year.
So Notre Dame has to be the more likely win of those two, right?
I would say because if Jones makes it through the whole season, he'll progress and he'll get better. So I think if you want to hop on or if you want to get ahead early, that's the point.
Yeah, and what I'm getting at is our chances against Notre Dame, I think, are only existent at all because that's the first game of the year.
Exactly. Like if this game was, back in 2014 when we played Everett Wilson in the 6th game of the year, number 2, number 5, no fucking shot with this team. There's no way that would happen. But the fact that it's the first game of the year gives us a much better chance than it would, later into the season. JSU, obvious win. Wake Forest, I like us to win. Louisville at home, I think that's pretty good toss-up. I like Scott Satterfield and what he's doing at Louisville. Really, really big fan of Scott Satterfield as a head coach. I think that'll be a tough game. I think we eke it out by 3 points. And then Syracuse should be a W at home as well. UNC, I think they get their revenge from last year, especially with them being at home. So I think we do lose that game. Mac Brown gets his first fucking win against his alma mater, for God's sake. UMass, fuck Walt Bell. That's an easy dub. Clemson, don't even need to talk about. NC State will be a good game. They got a couple quarterback questions as well, but they got a good guy coming in. So I think that'll be a good game. Miami, as long as De'Aaron King's healthy, should not be a difficult game for them to come into Tallahassee and beat us. Manny usually gets them pretty fired up to play us. And I think it ultimately hinges on that BC game is what we all ultimately come down to. What type of season is this going to look like? And it's not even what type of season this season's going to look like. It's how is this recruiting class going to hold up? And it comes down to that BC game. That BC game is going to be huge. And if we lose that game, depending on how we do the rest of the season, oh well. But the way that each of us are putting it, that BC game comes to a big component.
And that game is so much tougher because of where it is. Because you're right between your two rivals. You're at the end of the year. You're in Boston in November, right? All of those things make that BC game 10 times harder than it really needs to be. If you replace that with something like Louisville and moved BC to a different part of the season, that could change your whole outlook on how things go. But when you're playing such a solid squad at that part of the year, you're not getting any break between Miami and Florida. It's going to be such a tough matchup.
And we got a pretty good question here from Quoka_Michigan on Twitter.
Keep it short and sweet. It's Florida and Clemson. There's no other answer. It's better for
well, let me read the question first. Let me read the question first. Damn, dude. Ben's getting all ahead and shit. Would you rather beat UNC and Notre Dame or Florida and Clemson?
Florida and Clemson.
Florida
and Clemson. It's two rivals versus two Mickey Mouse teams that no one gives a shit about. Like, you've got. It's better for recruiting. It's 2 away games. Actually, we have Clemson at home this year, but anyways, it's better for recruiting.
No, Clemson's on the road.
Yeah, Clemson on the road. Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got 2 away games.
Clemson and Florida on the road.
Yeah, easy money. There should be no debate. Anybody who says Notre Dame and UNC needs to be checked into a psych ward.
I think the only argument, and I'm going to end up agreeing with you, the only argument you would make for Notre Dame is that you're going to have all those recruits there that day, and it's going to be the tone setter for the season, both on the field and in recruiting. So that's something to consider, but I'm never going to, in any scenario, pick beating Notre Dame over beating Florida. So
I agree with you guys. I'm going to take beating Clemson and Florida. That would be a much bigger deal than beating UNC and Notre Dame. UNC is out of that question in terms of making a mark on any recruit. To me, I still think Florida State holds a lot of weight over UNC no matter what, albeit Sam Howell and Walt Bell's implication of telling him not to fucking go to Florida State because Willie Taggart's a fucking shitty coach. That's the only reason I would say not. But yeah, you easily take Florida and Clemson over UNC Notre Dame. But we got another question: Miami and UNC or Florida Notre Dame? I'm going to change that UNC to Notre Dame. So I'll say Miami and Clemson or Florida and Notre Dame. That seems like a very, very reasonable question. So switch out UNC for Clemson. So you got Miami and Clemson or Florida and Notre Dame. Which two would you guys rather beat in the year?
Florida
Miami
and
and
Notre
Clemson.
Dame.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I'm. You have to go Florida and Notre Dame here, I think, because, like I said before, I'm always going to pick beating the Gators, and on top of that, we get now to have the Notre Dame win, which, like I talked about, to secure that recruiting momentum that you'd get from that. I think you win that game with all those kids in the building. You've got 2 or 3 blue chips like committing that weekend. I think that's a big deal. And it's like, it's probably the most important part of our season because we're not going to win anything of substance this season anyways. So we need to get those kids to commit and look good enough for that. And really, I'm just not going to pass up beating the Gators in Gainesville.
See, I'm going to go opposite of you guys. I'm going to go Miami and Clemson for recruiting purposes.
I'm with you,
and the whole point before, I know that's what your, stance was, Christian, is that Notre Dame, beers getting boys. Notre Dame has a lot of recruiting implications. I'm going to do it one more time.
Nice.
But I'm going to go Miami and Clemson. The reason why is Clemson has been pulling so many kids out of Florida because they are the top of the ACC right now. Who's the top of the ACC? It's Clemson. How do you get those recruits back to you? You get back on top of your conference. The only way you do that is by beating Clemson. Same thing that Clemson used to say about us is what we're saying about them right now. That's what we need to do to get there. So beating Miami and Clemson, both who are in our conference, Miami obviously for the state of Florida, Clemson obviously for the state of Florida too, because Clemson has been pulling all of our fucking best players. The state of Florida, all 3 schools, Miami, Florida, Florida State, has not had a top wide receiver, a 5-star wide receiver, commit to them in the past, 7 years or some crazy shit like that?
I think the last one.
They've all gone to Alabama or Clemson.
Might see Evan Stewart to Florida this year.
We haven't seen it happen in 7 years.
See,
nobody has gone to a Florida school, and Alabama and Clemson have got it. Forget Alabama. Alabama's going to get theirs. But for us to beat Clemson would be absolutely huge. You make a mark. We're back, bitch. We're fucking back. And if we beat Clemson, that's a we're back moment. Y'all want to fuck with us? Y'all want to fuck with our recruiting? Y'all want to fuck with everything else?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think
we're back now. We're making a damn statement, and we're going to beat y'all, and we're going to prove that these recruits need to come here because Florida State's going to be a team that deserves to be reckoned with now with a new head coach.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that because I got a couple of reasons. One, my hatred for Dabo and Manny is more than Mullen and Chip Kelly. Two interconference rivals versus one rival and one, I guess, half rival in Notre Dame. And also, we're looking at it like, I think Miami and Clemson are bigger recruiting threats, both than Florida and Notre Dame. Like, we don't really recruit kids. We don't have battles with Notre Dame much. Dan Mullen's a good coach, but he can't recruit. Manny's taking the good guys out of Florida. Like, that's the guy we're losing battles to. in state. And then you also said Clemson's pulling out guys. So we beat Clemson, we beat Miami. We become the best recruiting team in the state. And then you have the momentum that you just be a top 5 team, make a statement nationwide. People are like, Mike's kind of doing something special there. And then, but the only other counter I would have would be that I like what Christian said, like you open the season and close the season well. That would be my only counter, but I still think those Miami and Clemson wins would just be more valuable for recruiting otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean we're all thinking
who is this motherfucker? I love Coach Mullen's TikTok. Who in their right fucking mind likes those?
He's trolling us.
God, dude, it says Michigan in the last part of his Twitter name, and that just tells me fucking enough. I don't need to know any more about that. But we'll move on, boys, and this might be our most favorite segment of the night, and that's gonna be Scared Money, Don't Make Money, courtesy of Ben Stana himself. So I'll let him go ahead and lead off with what are we doing tonight? You let me know. I forgot.
It's basically a weekly segment. We're usually going to put in like 1 or 2 picks against the spread or over-unders, but since it's week 0, we're going to go with over-under win totals for the season before the season starts. So my lock, I've had it on the radar for a pretty long time, is you got Nebraska under 6.5 wins, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you why. 1, Scott Frost is shit. Second, their schedule, they play at Illinois, Fordham, Buffalo, at Oklahoma, at Sparty, Northwestern, Michigan, at Minnesota, Purdue, Ohio State, at Wisconsin, Iowa. When I first looked at the schedule, I saw 2 wins. I saw Fordham and I saw Buffalo. I think they could beat Illinois, maybe. I think they could beat Sparty, and I think they could beat Northwestern. The rest of the games, I don't think they have a fighting chance. So at best, you're looking at 5 wins. And if they win when they're not supposed to out of those 5, you're looking at 6 wins. And then going on top of that, if you're gonna ride with me, I've got Illinois +8 or Illinois money line for this week because again, Scott Frost is shit, and also Illinois beat them by 21 at Nebraska last year. Now it's week 1 at Illinois with the same starting quarterback. I don't see where you can lose money there. You put your rent on it. If you're homeless, you're homeless. That's just really unfortunate, but I think you're gonna double your rent if you put it on there.
Yeah, I'm on that Illinois money line as well for this weekend, this week 0. Look at one of the teams we already talked about for my win total lock. I think it's a easy pick for over 6.5 wins on NC State. I think that line's way too low for them. You mentioned it earlier, Skinner. You talked about their quarterback, Devin Leary. I think he's a stud. They bring back a lot of guys. They have our own personal favorite, Cyrus Fagan and Corey Durden, some legendary Knowles, especially Mr. Durden. But I think I love that NC State pick. Their out-of-conference schedule is going to be South Florida, Foreman, Louisiana Tech, and Mississippi State. I think that's an easy 4-0. They do have North Carolina and Miami, but we're only talking about them getting to 6 wins. So they're going to win those 4 out-of-conference games. Then you need them to get 3 more ACC wins. I think that's a piece of cake. I think they're a team that's likely to beat us. Unfortunately, we'll give them a good game, but it'll be a tough one. I think that number should be closer to 8 or 8.5. So lock up NC State over 6.5. Also, I'm going to say let's take kind of going against our Florida State family here. I'm going to pick against Iowa State. I'm going to have them going under 9.5. We talked about this earlier too. Iowa State's never won 10 games in the history of their football program. So just on that fact alone, you should be going under the 9.5. And also basically that sets it up where they have to either beat one of Texas and Oklahoma, which isn't going to happen, or they have to go perfect in the rest of their schedule, which I really don't see happening. I think, unfortunately, that Purdy is kind of overhyped. I hate to say it. I know he's kind of adjacent to our Knoll family, but I'm not too high on him. So let's lock up NC State over 6.5 and Iowa State under 9.5. What do you have, Skinner?
Like it, boys. But I'm gonna go over to the SEC. I'm looking at the Tennessee Volunteers with new head coach Josh Happel, however you want to pronounce his name. Guy coming over from UCF. Gus Malzahn obviously taking over there at UCF for them. I think they got to upgrade there as an overall coach, not necessarily as an offensive-minded guy. But Josh Heupel taking over there for the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm gonna go under 6. For them. I like that as a lock. Obviously, they started the season pretty easy with Bowling Green, South Alabama, and Tennessee Tech. All should be winnable games. So nice three game wins going into the season. But it's really hard to find, 3 wins in their conference matchups. After that, I mean, maybe you can talk about Vandy and South Carolina, but Vandy probably a W, but South Carolina to be determined. And even then, if you win those 2 games, that puts you at 5. And then you also have to face Florida, Missouri, Kentucky, and Alabama on the road. And then at home, you do get Georgia and Ole Miss, but Georgia and Ole Miss aren't anybody to play with, even if you are at home. Don't have a whole lot of trust in the Tennessee Volunteers heading into this next season with a new head coach, not a very favorable schedule. I think this bodes very well for the under 6 wins here for the Tennessee Volunteers. I think at most places you might be able to get it at 6.5. So that'll help you if you're just going for the 6 wins there for Tennessee. But even if it's at 6, I think you have a good shot of hitting the under there. I think they just don't have enough. They've lost a lot of guys in the transfer portal. They probably lost more than any other team in the nation in the transfer portal, if you really think about it. A lot of guys left them. A lot of guys aren't going to be there anymore. It's going to be a whole new team, and they're rebuilding. So it's practically going to be a year 0 without a pandemic effect in it for Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers. So I like the under 6 wins for the Tennessee Volunteers heading into next season.
You could play all those games at Tennessee, and I think you'd still go under. It didn't even matter.
Even
Yeah,
if
it's
you
not
get
matter. The only thing is I've been to Neyland Stadium before, and
Yeah.
Even if they suck, the fans show up, and that's one thing that can maybe boost them in their favor. And obviously, they're not going to win that home game against Georgia, but they might have a chance against Ole Miss. But I'm a big Lane Train guy, so I really don't think they have any chance of really winning a whole lot when it comes to their conference schedule, especially with the majority of their conference schedule coming on the road.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, at worst you get to 6 wins and you push. That's how I'd see it.
Right. It's an easy one. I try to get an easy one for you guys. Make your money. At worst, you make your money back and you don't lose anything. So that's big. So boys, what a fucking show. Amazing first show for the new guys, the rooks, if you will, Christian Suero and Ben Stana coming out here chugging along with me, man. I couldn't ask for better guys for a pick, for joining me on Tribaholics, replacing Marshall Maxwell, who is my old co-host, a great guy in his own right. But I'm really excited that you guys are on board. Throughout the rest of the season, we're going to be doing a show once a week. We haven't nailed down a specific time. We're going to kind of take it as it goes. A couple of us have things going on that we have to figure out specifically what time we're going to nail down during the week. But on Saturday, specifically Saturday mornings, we're going to be having a show called The Shampoo Effect. If you guys don't know what the shampoo effect is, just go Google it. It'll be a real interesting thing for you guys. So we're all big drinking guys around here. We're Florida State fans. We're big drinking guys. We love to drink. So we most likely you're going to go out on a Friday night before game day, and we're going to wake up Saturday morning hungover and just have maybe 1 or 2 mimosas or Bloody Marys, and then just be right back into the same state that we were the night before. So you guys tune into that. Look up what the shampoo effect's about. We appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. See, we got one more comment in here. We appreciate all of y'all coming in here. Thank you, Quokka, Michigan, for coming in here, telling us we got a W tonight. We do nothing but W's here at Florida State. Hopefully that's the case this year. But thank you guys for tuning in. Christian, Ben, y'all got anything else to say before we go ahead and log off?
No, good to be here.
Nope, go Noles, baby.
Go Noles.
Yes, sir. Go Noles. And then next week, obviously we'll be diving into the Notre Dame game because we got a big game on Sunday night. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and go Noles.